So, but you commented on black murder, which I don't believe black on black crime is a thing. Do you believe it's a thing?
Yeah.
Why do you believe black on black? Because some would say it's all based on proximity.
Show me where the Jews killing each other. Show me where the Asians going to jail for murder, and they got Asian gangs. Mm-hmm. Show me where there's a big population of Asians in California. There are Asian Crips, Asian Bloods, Asian gang. Show me where a big population of Asians in jail. Mm-hmm. You can't. Show me a big population of white people killing white people. You can't. But this is a country of guns.
Well, only when they go in school and shoot up kids and say it's not terrorism.
But they classify that as a mass shooting. Mm-hmm. They classify ours as gun violence, but it's mass shooting because mass people are being shot in one instance, but they don't classify ours as mass shooting.
Well, where do you think that comes from, though? Because, again, I'm not one to say everything goes back to white people, but lack of investing in our communities.
It comes back to us because they see we don't care. If we cared if we cared the same about black people shooting black people that we did police shootings, then they would respond to black shootings the way they do police shootings. They try to give us resources and they try to find alternative solutions after a police shooting occurred. Mm-hmm. They literally put everything on hold. Come on, we got to hear from our blacks. But that's only during a police shooting. Then we act like nothing else bothers us but police shootings. Only thing that bothers black people in America is a white police officer killing a black person. Other than that, nothing bothers us because we don't cry, we don't complain, we don't march, we don't riot, and we don't tear up shit until that happens. So why would anybody care about that? They don't.
Why do you think we're not consistent in the fight for a better life or for a better community?
It starts at home. I think our problem starts watching mom and her sisters, mom and her brothers, grandmama treating this one kind of way compared to this one. Materialism. I think materialism is what got us to this point. Mm-hmm. Having a color TV, having furniture, having clothes, having shoes. I think materialism superseded everything.
All right, let's go ahead and further the discussion. He says we have no unity, man. And until we start coming together, then we'll keep producing the same outcome. I'm going to go to you, who haven't responded that wanted to kind of join the conversation. About you, Lady Mogalet?
I think I kind of touched on this earlier. I do believe that materialism is kind of destroying everything, and part of me because I kind of zoned out a little bit during the clip, but I did hear some of it. I do think materialism is destroying everything. I think folks are very superficial. I think this is the age of follow the follower. People want to look wealthy to folks that aren't even wealthy themselves, that are pretending to be wealthy, seeking outside validation from folks, going broke, not prioritizing, again, investing in things that are going to bear fruit. More dysfunction, essentially, to the first topic that we kind of spoke to. So yeah, I do think that folks could do a better job at just, me and shout out to PDAT on Clubhouse. I can't remember his last name right now, but we were having a conversation the other day about the fact that there's no real Black community per se, because a community of people has the same values, the same interests, and the same priorities. And for whatever reason, our people can't get on one accord about that, about our values, about our interests, and about our priorities. And how do you build beyond that point? Like, folks are not even acknowledging the fact that there is Black on Black crime. He made some very poignant points. Like, how is it that when a certain race of people, do what, go have their psycho moment is a mass shooting, and they're humanized in the papers, but it's gun violence when it comes to ours. They're pulling back. It's just so many thoughts, but I'm gonna leave that there for now.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Taken.
I was going to say that the only, I guess, point of contention for me is him saying that there is only black on black crime. And he's like, well, show me Asian crime. I would say, show me where the poverty is. And I'll show you what that crime is. So if you have a group of people that are living in poverty, whatever that group is, that environment is, that's where you're going to see those people with crime. So if you have majority of Black people that are, and I'm not saying the majority are, but what I'm as point of reference, if you have a group of Black people that are living in poverty-stricken areas, yeah, you will see black on black crime because that's the environment that they're in, and the people in that environment are all Black. If you go to the trailer park where it might be a majority of white people, you're going to see a majority of crime in that poverty-stricken area against other white people. Right. So but I think the way it's presented in the media makes it appear that we're savages and we just go around killing each other, but not looking at the root cause of where it is coming from. Putting somebody in an environment where there's a lack of resources, poor education, no job, opportunities, things like that. You're creating an environment that creates a, get what you can, so that's the part that I don't like, is the way that it's presented. And we're the only group that would say black on black crime. And we do, I mean, the stats show everything. They're the studies show that poverty and crime kind of go hand in hand, so that's the only thing that I didn't necessarily agree with him. Is it at higher rates? I would say yes, but I also think the difference with us too is that there's also been governmental situations that were put in place that also contributed to that as well, that we don't consider. So that part, I think, has been overlooked in what his statement is. But I'm done.
I think to what you said though, if I may, to what you said, I think the fact is that yes, there may be white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, whatever on whatever crime, right? It's not put in the media that way because those people are not as oppressed by this country as we are. And the media is doing its job of what's the word? Just releasing propaganda and controlling the narrative, so much so that now we are using the language of our oppressors against ourselves. They don't need to do that for us anymore. They don't need to highlight the problems in our communities anymore, because even if you operate in a space where the problems that they project and put out there onto us do not exist, we are more aware of the problems than we are of the great things that exist in your space. So much so that even if you exist in a world or have a reality where like maybe you came up and you came out the hood and it may have been troubling, you know what I mean? It may have been difficult. And you know what I mean? You may have experienced some traumatic shit. But when you leave and you're grateful, it's almost like, I don't know, we just focus on all the things that they want us to focus on is essentially my point. Like, it's literally like we're puppets on a string. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why we hear about black on black crime is for the same reason we hear about city girls. The same reason we hear about I don't even know, like all these little I forget the name of it right now. I can't, somebody give me the word. What the quotes, all these little uh things that they put out in the media.
Like movements, trends.
Yeah, trends. It's along the word of trends. It's
like movements, like 4B movement.
No, I'm saying, like, you know how we have like all these quotes that mean things and we kind of understand that they mean things, or all these little phrases that mean things. But essentially it's just like a media push. Like they're marketing gurus and they're literally marketing our oppression, marketing our struggles and all those things back to us.
So I want to say something real quick before we. I think you both did a really good job in terms of highlighting both sides of the aisle. I think one thing that I want to highlight specifically is the opioid crisis and how that was handled here in America versus the crack epidemic of the late 80s and early 90s here in America. And sort of the way that they handled the crack epidemic in America was with, the over militarization of policing, incarceration, jails, harsher penalty laws, and expanded funding for drug enforcement, et cetera, nationally across the board. However, with the opioid crisis, they provided, clinics, treatment centers. They treated it as a national health crisis, right? They viewed it as a national health crisis. But our crisis, they did not view it as a health crisis. They viewed it as more of a delinquency as opposed to an illness or a crisis. And sort of, for me, it was more of a way of creating a division of control by giving money and funding to a specific branch to oversee and oppress certain people, right? Versus the other branch in which it created community centers, it created outreach program, it created clinics, it gave back money in more positive ways versus funneling money in other branches in other areas. And sort of, I always tell people, follow the money. How much is being given, how much is being distributed, what branches and who's receiving it, how are they directly benefit from, right? And sort of what programs are being cut as a result of it. And sort of these things are very important to kind of look at when we're having these conversations juxtaposed, because we understand that when it comes to us, the reason why that narrative is so heightened is because they're trying to create a side of division between the two. So you.
And so when we come together, like just right now for this time, we could also come together for building our community and coming up with solutions and coming up with ideas and gathering people that follow and watch us, so we can mobilize. Because it feels like with all of these things, with Black on Black, you can't solve that if it's always propaganda. You can't solve that if that's what they're feeding you all the way from your child goes into kindergarten up to the 12th grade, and that they're teaching them that they're inferior. So there's certain things that we it's happening, we can't control it, but what are we going to do? How are we going to strategize in order to combat these things? And like, if something is negative, you have no positive, it can't even come out to be neutral. Like, we got to do so much just to stop because the thing is, like, all this stuff happened, but it should have died out with the old people. But how is it continuing to go on and on and on? That is where the system is broken, where it's like, how does the gang member die, and then the child, of the gang member start get in the gang again? Like, how can we prevent these things from continuing on throughout the generations? And that's what we need to come together on and be the community. We don't got to be like, well, we don't got no community. Moving on, let's create one.
All right, go ahead, Balance.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I agree with Ruth, but I think what we're finding is that will take self accountability. Like, it starts with yourself, right? You can't, people so quickly want to go out and help the community, but it's their own house that's in disarray. We're not going to be able to ever help others if we can't even start with the accountability in our own households. And it's true. It's sad that it is that way, but that's the fact. And then when you do see people doing what they're supposed to do and trying to help the community, all you do is see people attacking them, saying, oh, well, you could have did it this way, you could have did it that way, but they're not doing anything in their own household. They're not doing a thing. All they do is complain about how this person didn't do it right. And that is the problem within our community. Like, stop talking about what other people are doing. Look yourself in the mirror. Michael Jackson, you know, I love him. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. What are you doing? Period. What are you doing? I don't want to hear anybody complaining about all the problems that Black people have. Tell me what you do on a day-to-day basis to help the culture, to help Black people, to help the community. I work with young girls. I mentor young girls. That's what I do. I'm not going to tell you what somebody else is doing wrong. I don't care what they're doing wrong. I'm too busy. I'm too busy focusing on what I need to do. It's a self-accountability. What are you doing? That's all I want to talk about going forward.
Facts. Agreed. And same.
Go ahead, Jay.
I think it's a I mean, I think it's brilliant how it's done. You know, I mean, I agree with balance in terms of, you know, what are you doing personally? On a macro level, you look at how divisive we've become, you know, or how divisive they've made us. You know, I mean, they have sliced us so thin to the point where we can't agree on anything. You know, they've, I'm not going to say turned our women against us, but they've made our women competitors instead of partners. They've taken, in terms of, well, let me get to the Black on Black crime first. I think it's proximity, because once upon a time I did believe it was, you know, oh, it was Black on Black crime. I think it's what Mistaken said about, you know, poverty. And I also think that is proximity. You know, people who are around each other are going to eventually, you know, have issues, and you're going to see crime in those areas. I think what you all have touched on was how it's presented. You know, the media will always present it as something astronomical. You'll never see a community of, you know, trailer park whites like Eminem, you know, where they're just focusing on that specific culture and that though their violence toward each other. You won't see that, you know. And at first I noticed that. I'm like, damn, I don't ever see, you know, the Asian gangs in Queens being focused on for their violence against each other, because it exists. Like, Queens is heavy with, you know, the gang members, the Asian gang members. They focus on us, and they do that for a reason, because they know that we are limited in our understanding, meaning, you know, a lot of us resort to violence because we weren't raised in an environment where we're articulate or we're able to critically think. So, and we already feel oppressed. We already are told that you've been oppressed. So we've bought into what they want us to be or what they think of us. So they'll promote that stuff. We'll have protests. We'll start burning stuff down. And if you notice, even with those protests, when we outrage and we're looting and we're doing all these different things, that protest will happen in areas where we live, areas where we give our dollar. We'll burn all that stuff down. But if you notice, there's always an invisible line. You cross this line, that's where, you know, people going to start getting shot at. People going to start getting locked up. You will not go, because this part of the neighborhood, this is what we need. You know, these are where the white folks are. These are where the wealthy are. So you're not going to come and start destroying. If you look at every protest, that always happens. They stop you at a certain point, let you tear all your own stuff down. And then what happens is a lot of people don't research when they burn these things down. You know, a lot of these things are struggling businesses. You know what I'm saying? Might have been a person that acquired this just by the hair on his chin. I got this business. I'm a business owner. It's doing okay. Boom, it gets burned down. he didn't have all the things in place to, you know, all the insurances, all this stuff in place to get that money back and rebuild. So who comes in? These people come in, and now they own this property or this land where, you know, this mom and pop shop once was, or where the, you know, we don't follow back up on that. So I think that it's purposeful that the media, you know, focuses on what we have going on because we have emotional reactions to it. And I think we do exactly what they want us to do, tear our own stuff up. It's National Geographic. I feel that as far as us agreeing on something, they've divided us so much. You know, once it was Black Lives Matter. Now it's Black Gay Lives Matter. Now it's Black Lives with ADD Matter. Now it's, you know, they've always chopping us up into subsets where we can't even agree on the Black part. So it's gonna be hard until we collectively decide, like, okay, this is what we need. Can we all agree on this being the main thing? You know, because I'm sure we don't even know what to ask for at this point because we're so divided. So we can't even agree on, like they talk about, oh, we got to see one of these presidents. These presidents need to do something for us Black people. We can't even agree on that. So how are they even supposed to do anything for us if we can't even agree on what that one thing is or what that most important thing is? You know? So I think it's, as Balance said, you have to just, in your own personal life, you have to decide what you're doing to make the world at least a percentage better for the next generation.
I just wanted to say one thing. While you were talking, Jay, I was just thinking, instead of us always trying to have one group, why don't we have like 3 different categories and then we just vote off of what, you know, like, you see what I'm saying? Everybody's not the same. Everybody doesn't have the same background. So we have to kind of group ourselves together and then the leaders cooperate. That's the only way I see it happening, because there is no one race of anything. Everybody don't get along, but you have these little clusters. And if we did even some clusters, that would be better than nothing.